Vino Geek Podcast, wine from a Kiwi perspective. Is Syrah misunderstood? I mean, what is it? Like, we have Syrah in New Zealand, we grow it well, but it hasn't really captured the public. And why is this? Is it because it's not Shiraz? Is it because it's not Pinot Noir? It's something in between? This is what we're discussing today.
When it comes to travel, experience matters. Book with the A-team, Amanda and Anna from King Travel. With a combined 25 years in the industry, we'll look after your holiday from start to finish. Join us this August for Adelaide Uncorked, our hosted wine journey with Amanda and Caleb King. Think Barossa Valley, McLaren Vale, long lunches and premium tastings. Experiences you'd find hard to access on your own, all in a relaxed, small group with an optional Kangaroo Island add-on. Book local, book with confidence. Go to kingtravel.co.nz.
So yeah, how to break this down? I mean, at the end of the day, in New Zealand, we have to categorize all wines into some sort of rudimentary categories, if you like. So with white wine, it has to be Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Gris, or Riesling. And if it's not one of those things, it has to be put into one of those boxes or a combination of those boxes. In red, there is Pinot Noir, there is Shiraz, and there is Merlot. Cabernet is sort of a sub-genre of Merlot, if you like. But those are it. And so things that aren't traditional, aren't those grape varieties, can fall through the cracks and have to be aligned with those certain categories. And so Syrah, for instance, it's not really Shiraz, even though they are the same grape variety. It's not Shiraz because it doesn't taste like Shiraz. It's not ripe and fruit forward. It's not tannic. It's not that big bold style. It's restrained. It has a bit more elegance and a little bit more freshness. So is it Pinot Noir if it's that style? No, it's not. It's kind of a little bit bigger. It has a different structure. You do get a little more tannin. And in Hawke's Bay, because of Hawke's Bay, it tends to get a little bit more freshness than your average Syrah as well as Waiheke, actually, because of its proximity to the ocean. So you get that saline minerality that gives it that idea of freshness. But it's different again. It's not the same. So what is it? And is this the problem that Syrah has, is that it is underrated, it is underappreciated, it is not really well supported. And I know, talking to a couple of wine people, that this year in particular, the 2026 season, there was a lot of Syrah left on the vines in Hawke's Bay. Years ago, Hawke's Bay producers were encouraged to grow Syrah and grow it in abundance. And while when I say abundance, the numbers aren't huge, it is still a smaller crop when you consider New Zealand's total output or total amount of tonnes grown and produced. But it's still a significant amount. And if they're leaving a significant amount on the vines, there's a disconnect there. So the growers were encouraged to plant these vines, but the consumer wasn't encouraged to drink these wines. What happened? How is there hundreds of tons of fruit just left for the birds? I know it's tough economic times, but when it's one grape variety, one singular variety that's really getting singled out in Hawke's Bay, there's something wrong there. That shows to me that we haven't educated Like, there hasn't been enough education for the public. There hasn't been enough acknowledgement that the customer needs to know about this variety. It needs to be explained. There needs to be time and effort spent into helping the public understand what Syrah is, because the greater understanding we have of something, the more chance we're able to buy it. I mean, case in point, Coca-Cola. We all know what Coca-Cola is. So it is wildly popular. People know it, people buy it. You know, when we're talking wine, Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, people know these varieties. They just go in and ask for, you know, Lionel's in particular. You know, they come into Lionel's, they ask for a Sauvignon Blanc. We give them a Sauvignon Blanc. They come in for a Merlot, we give them a Malbec. So, because we just, you know, people that ask for a Merlot tend not to necessarily want to drink a Merlot. They just want something that's Merlot-like. And that's the issue with Syrah. What is it like? Is it Shiraz-like, or is it Pinot Noir-like? And this is what we need to break down, those structures and rewrite the structures, because not only Syrah hits this wall, you know, varieties like Chenin Blanc, Albarino, Viognier, you know, the list goes on. Gewürztraminer falls into this category. What is it? It's not one of these key core varieties. So what is it? How, you know, I mentioned Malbec. What is it? You know, these varieties fall into that sort of no man's land. And we have to review how we do things. I mean, you know, there is something to be said about how Europe does it, and how, you know, you go to Bordeaux, you pick up a Bordeaux, you know it's going to be a certain style. You pick up a Rhone, you know it's a certain style. Like Burgundy, certain style. You know what you're getting. You know, this whole, you know, lolly scramble, if you like, where Hawke's Bay produces basically every variety that is grown in New Zealand, you can get from Hawke's Bay. Is that really good? Or is that the issue? Is it the issue of the fact that, you know, we can't fall back on a regional identity? You know, they see Hawke's Bay on a red wine bottle. What is it? Is it a Syrah? Is it a Merlot? Is it a Cabernet? Is it a Malbec? What is it? Is this the issue with understanding, the greater understanding of wine? You know, the fact that wine isn't just black and white categories. There is a whole plethora of grey area that we as consumers, as, you know, myself as a self-proclaimed educator or helper in this sphere, you know, is it up to me? Is it up to others like myself to really make sure we all know what, you know, that there is more than just those categories. There is a whole plethora, and they go stretch from light to full-bodied for reds, with fruity and rustic and tannic and all of these things in between. You know, whites go from light and crisp up to rich and full and buttery and fruity and low acid and floral and what have you, all in between. Is it up to us to help people understand, or is it somebody above us that needs to do this? Is it the job of the wineries? Is it the job of the governing bodies to make sure that if these varieties growing, that people know what they are, people can place them? Is it just on the flip side, not necessarily, is it about education? Is it the lack of variety? Is it the fact that these big companies, these big corporates that own the space, if you like, that lead the way because their marketing budgets are so high that they can influence and control the market, they limit their styles, They keep it to that core. Is that the issue? Is it the fact that the vast majority of wine available in New Zealand is very much those same traditional varieties? Is that why Syrah just gets left in the dirt? Because people don't know it, because those big companies just have Australian Shiraz. Let's face it, those big corporates are multinational, they have Australian Shiraz on their books. So is that the issue? They're not pumping up Syrah because they've got to pump up their Shiraz. They're not willing to deviate from XYZ because that's what people know. But is it a chicken and egg situation where people only know those things because that's all they've been told? What is the silver bullet? How do we fix this situation where we as a country, and I mean to a lesser extent around the sort of newer world wine drinking countries, the countries that weren't traditionally wine drinking countries, is that more of a global issue? Is that we've been so focused in on, so dovetailed towards these not even noble varieties, just core varieties, that we have been so programmed that these are the ones you drink and they've got to fit into those categories. Otherwise, what are they? I mean, Albarino, to sell Albarino at Lionel's, we've lumped it in with the Sauvignon Blancs, and I've done this with other clients, lump the Albarino in with Sauvignon Blanc because it needs to be championed. But who's buying it? Syrah, what I try to do with Syrah is pitch the Australian Shiraz higher than the Syrah, if they have an Australian Shiraz by the glass. Again, just so people have to buy Syrah if they don't want to spend. If they want to spend, go for it. Have that Shiraz. But this is the thing, like, how do you change the mindset? Is it just simple things like that, or is it the too hard basket? Is Syrah something that Hawke's Bay should never have got around as much as they did, and they should have stuck to Merlot, to Chardonnay, and basically that, and just keep it pretty simple, keep it pretty standard, run of the mill, and just really focused in on that? What is the right path? Where should it, for me to hear that so much tons of Syrah? I know that this is a global thing, and all over each wine region there's a lot of fruit being left on vines, but we're just bringing it back down to the Hawke's Bay. Is the fact that they focus, that the grape variety that they decided to leave on the vines was Syrah. Is this saying, okay, that was a mistake, we shouldn't have planted so much Syrah? Or is this, again, going the other way, is that we haven't done a good enough job of promoting Syrah? Because for me, Syrah is this beautiful, beautiful wine that really needs to be championed and showcased and given a category all on its own, given a position in the market all on its own. It shouldn't be compared to Shiraz. It's not Shiraz, it is Syrah. Shiraz is a very different style of wine. And I think this whole notion of associating wines based on their grape variety is a notion we need to shift away from. We need to shift to a situation where we're looking at style. The style of Syrah is totally different to the style of Shiraz from Australia. So the fact that we produce Syrah because it's a cooler climate, that needs to be championed and embraced and go, oh yeah, this is great because it's perfect rendition of Syrah from New Zealand, from a cool climate. And is this something, again, thinking out loud and how to promote this, is this something that we have dropped the ball? The exporters, the people that are targeting the international market have dropped the ball. Should they have been promoting Syrah in the US, in England, what have you, promoting it to a sommelier where they can really get their head around a beguiling, fresh, vibrant style, a floral, aromatic style of Syrah, of the great variety, Syrah Shiraz, and really hammering that home, the fact that this is cool climate, but it's fully ripe, it's fully mature, it still has freshness, it still has lovely lacy tannin, it has complexity and layers, but all in a lighter package than Shiraz. Is that something we should have been promoting? Is that something that I know that the international market is so enamored with Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, but was there a way of doing this? Was there a way of getting that in front of people? I mean, Pinot Noir is sort of something that exporters are jumping on and trying to promote Pinot Noir to the world. What about Syrah? Why not Syrah? It's not as if we make Syrah very, very similar to other places around the world. We do it differently. Pinot Noir, sure, it's more fruit forward, but it's still, there is that still need that it has to taste like Burgundy. Syrah doesn't have that crisis. It doesn't have to taste like Rome. It doesn't have to taste like the home of Syrah. Australia has been the case in point, and other warmer climates doing Shiraz or Syrah. Rhone is hotter than Hawke's Bay, to a degree. So why can't there be a market for cool climate Syrah? Why can't we push that to sommelier that are looking for that point of difference, looking for something just that little bit extra, to flesh out their wine list that they can get around? Because, sommelier like lighter, fresher, more vibrant styles, food-friendly styles that they can really get around and pair with their food. I mean, that's not offered by Shiraz that much. These bigger reds don't really offer that, but a lighter red can offer that. So what do we need to do? How do we need to get around this? There needs to be some way of promoting this. There needs to be a little, people that are Syrah fans, you need to really sing from the rooftops about it. Tell people about it. Show people that Syrah is excellent and Syrah can be great. Just like the wine of the week this week, which I'll get to in a minute. So I'm going to wrap this up. It is superb. This vintage is outstanding. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to you. Yeah, so to wrap things up, we need to do more with Syrah. We need to help out these growers that are stuck with Syrah, because it's an expensive job to pull out vines and replace them. Obviously it's a lot more expensive than leaving them hanging on the vines. Something needs to be done. We need to sell Syrah. We need to promote Syrah to the world. We need to promote Syrah locally. There needs to be more Syrah on wine lists. It can't just be the token one or two with your token one or two Shiraz for a standard place and then flesh it out some more with bigger places. But we need to be looking at it as a wine on its own, not just a variation of Shiraz. So yeah. After the break.
When it comes to travel, experience matters. Book with the A-team, Amanda and Anna from King Travel. With a combined 25 years in the industry, we'll look after your holiday from start to finish. Join us this August for Adelaide Uncorked, our hosted wine journey with Amanda and Caleb King. Think Barossa Valley, McLaren Vale, long lunches and premium tastings. Experiences you'd find hard to access on your own, all in a relaxed, small group with an optional Kangaroo Island add-on. Book local, book with confidence. Go to kingtravel.co.nz.
So yeah, another wine, this wine of the week, is another one that is on the list at Lionel's. It is so good. It is picture perfect Syrah. I thought the 2021 was outstanding, but the 2022 has just taken it to another level. I understand why. I mean, this is just this is the Smith and Chef Cru Syrah 2022. I reviewed the 21, so you can go back and find that Actually, it keeps popping up on my YouTube feed, so you can find it on my YouTube channel, the short for that. Anyway, it is a wine that, is picture perfect Syrah, and the reason why it is, and it's such good value because in 22, it was a variable vintage. It wasn't as bad as 23, but it still wasn't great. They did still have a cyclone that went through the area, so that did affect the fruit. So they didn't make a reserve. They didn't make their omahu. So this is their Heretonga, and it has all their omahu fruit, which is their gimlet gravels, and it's reserved for their reserve. Of course, it's reserved for their reserve. Anyway, this year it's all in there. So as far as the color goes, again, I just have the notes here. I don't have the wine in front of me. It was dark ruby, almost purple color, that magenta sort of color, deep, rich color. The nose was pungent, like black fruits, blackberries, black cherries. There was that pepper, that black and white pepper. There was a bit of fennel, sort of aniseed characteristic coming through, which I like because it's that, and it's the seed. It wasn't like the herbal note. It was the seed. So that the fruit is ripe, even though it does have that tendency to want to be green. And on the palate, I did notice a little bit of a touch of sort of green peppercorn, but we'll get to that. And it was floral and inviting and powerful. The nose, the palate again. That fruit came through. It was ripe without being sweet. It was rich without being full. So a lovely mid-weighted palate. Lovely freshness that drove it through the palate. The tannin was very soft and powdery and really integrated with the finish. The finish was that lovely crescendo of sort of the fennel, or, the green peppercorn, the sort of aniseedy fennel character with cocoa. So almost milk chocolate. It was so cocoa-y and just so smooth and almost creamy, melded with that freshness that it had, and just that presence and just the lovely, elegant length. So it wasn't big, powerful finish. It was just perfectly pitched. Delicious wine, like outstanding. Probably one of the better wines I've had this year, which, yeah, it's really, really lovely wine. And type of wine that I like to drink and type of Syrah that I like to see. So it gets me excited. Think meat, think like, Lionel's has a braised lamb shoulder, so slow cooked meats, obviously they talk about venison being a good idea and it could work, but yeah, those braised meats for me is really where it's at. Full earthy, rich dishes, you can complement that with a bit of pumpkin because there is a little bit of that dark fruit sweetness that does like pumpkin and the spice obviously as well. So it's there. This is still has some youth behind it. 22. It is 4 years old, but it can carry and it will last a while in the cellar. So don't be afraid to put this in the cellar. As far as the score goes, 96 out of 100. Just a delicious wine. And yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit loath to put it any higher than 96 because, there's got to be something out there that's waiting for me to try and just to really just blow it out of the water. But yeah, number one so far as wines I've tasted so far, Kiwi wines anyway. So that's that. So that's the episode this week. Syrah, go in and get some. Try it. Try the Smith and Shetty. You can find it in a fine wine shop. Find it online. Buy it because it's well worth every penny. And yeah, just enjoy Syrah. Enjoy the florals, the freshness, the spice. With the fruit, not just a big hulking great wine that demands your presence. This is something that is there and it's sort of calls you. It doesn't smash you around the face. It calls you. So Syrah's a great right? And we need to sell it. We need to enjoy it because it's such a really cool point of difference to Pinot as well. If you just have a diet of Pinot, try Syrah because it's worth it. It's cheaper and you tend to get better value with Syrah, and you get what you're looking for in Pinot Noir, but with a little bit extra spunk. It's almost like, as I say about Malbec versus Merlot, just get a little bit extra, something else in there. So give it a try. Okay, thank you as always for joining us. Santé. Bye.